morning and good morning and welcome. You know, this is truly where humanity and divinity meets. We are where humanity and divinity meets. And last week, for those that were here with us last week, we were really doing the macrocosm of where humanity and divinity meets. You know, with the not my circus, not my monkeys. You all remember that? Did you pay attention to any thin spaces that might have come up for you in the past week? Anybody? Yeah? Did you notice those?
I just watched the news and you know it's not too much.
So we really encompassed, you know, the larger last week. And so this week we're going to dive into the microcosm. We're going to dive into that inner beingness, to that inner space where truly humanity and divinity meet. And it is through our heart. It is through our heart. So you know how I always like to start with something funny that's going to kick off where we're going in this week's lesson. And so here we go. Let's put up the first slide. Truly, have you felt that before when you can't decide what to wear? You're just looking in the drawer. It all looks the same. Big hot mess. You just stick it on top of your head. But basically where I'm going here is, you know, the whole idea whenever I am finding myself in this situation of just not being able to make a decision or move on, and I'm just in one big hot mess, it's because I haven't gotten out of my head. I haven't surrendered to that all-knowing, all-wonderful guiding space of my heart. And yet you could just feel it with this baby, right? It's just like overwhelmed when you can't decide what to wear. I love it. So at that moment, I know, oh my goodness, I need to drop down into my heart. I need to surrender into that energy and that space that I know is going to guide me with the greatest of wisdom, with the greatest of love, and of what we know that we truly are at the heart of the matter, so to speak. So let's go to the next slide, please. So in that, though, when we know that we need to get out of the head and go into the heart, I had to choose this slide today. So take a look at this. So this is the Last Supper. Jesus, table for 26, please. The maitre d' says, but there's only 13 of you. And he's like, yeah, we all went to sit on the same side, right? So the purpose of that is, how many of us have seen this picture throughout all of our life of the Last Supper? Have we ever thought, why are they all sitting on the same side? We've got one. Yes, we have one. So, you know, it's that sometimes, folks, we do need to be jolted a bit out of how we typically look at things, how things typically show up for us, so that we can be in that pregnant pause that I like to talk about, to be able to make that decision to move into our heart, to move into that space that we know is going to guide us in a greater way instead of autopilot. I mean, how many things do we see the same of every single day, every single week, every single year of our life, that we don't even stop to think, wow, what's the significance of that in my life? And what do I want to choose the significance of that to be in my life? So I just thought that was a great representation of that. Selfie. For us. Selfie. Yeah, really, definitely. That's a good one. So the next slide, this is the summary of what we really got into in a great way last Sunday, is you are not in the universe, you are the universe, an intrinsic part of it. Ultimately, you are not a person, but a focal point where the universe is becoming conscious of itself. What an amazing miracle. So really, that means each and every one of you is an amazing miracle. You are special, you are unique, you're incredible, you are powerful, you're all-encompassing. And here's the caveat. So is your neighbor. So is your friend. So is the people they're talking about on the news. So is everyone. Because we are truly all connected. And we are that vibrational energy that is of that same vibrational energy that makes up the entire universe. And in knowing that, though, there's this individualized, unique, personal, very, very personal thing that we experience on a moment-by-moment basis that has its way with us, right? You guys know what I'm talking about? So when we move into that realization of that personal experience of it having its way with us, that's the focal point for this morning. How does Spirit speak to us? Spirit speaks to us through the heart. That's the gateway. That's the entrance door. That's the place where it all comes together. And I am so excited to share with you the message that I have prepared for you. So we know in our teaching, especially when we use that affirmative spiritual mind treatment, that thought plus feeling equals demonstration and manifestation. And we've really gone into that in great depth. You know, there's the manifesting the parking space that generally doesn't take all that much feeling, right? You know, you just set that intention. I know I need to park, and there it is, boom. But then there's this other aspect of our lives where as we grow into greater awareness of the truth, of the big, big picture, of the connectivity that we all hold with one another and ourselves and the divine, and all of that swirling together, that there is this time where we move into greater awareness where the power of our intentionality and our awareness come together with our feeling, come together with what we are rooting within ourselves and in our heart to know to be true, to know to be authentic, to know to say, yeah, I'm feeling that. That aligns with me. Or no, I'm not feeling that. That doesn't align with me. And there's so much power in that awareness. So a life led by the heart has a very different logic than one led by the head. And this logic is backed by the infinite presence and the one intelligence. A life led by the head is usually based in ego or the ideas of others, and tends to lead to a life of frustration and confusion. It may be the rules of society, but they are very much not the truth of how life really works. So when we live a life from the head, we're focused on living a life by the written rules created by generally people that lived life prior to us, so not necessarily as evolved sometimes. And because we're focusing on that, it's all about right, wrong, good or bad. Did I screw up? Did I do right? What did I get on that test? I got to make an A. Let's just memorize all this stuff and then regurgitate it. And in doing that, there is something very much missed in that experience. And what is that something that's missed? Feeling. What's our focus this morning? Heart. And if Spirit speaks to us through our heart, and there's so much of how society is created for us to march along according to a certain beat so that we don't get outside the lines, we're missing the way that Spirit speaks to us. We're missing the heart. We can sometimes go through life, go through our experience by not even tapping into that beautiful, intuitive, loving guidance that is also powerful yet so subtle that we have to be paying attention. We have to be listening. We have to be open. To be open, that means we got to be vulnerable. We got to be authentic. We got to be honest with ourselves. Oh my gosh, here we go again. Back to that. Back to being authentic and honest with ourselves. And so a person disconnected from his or her heart is truly not living. Do you all know anybody like that? And not necessarily need to focus on the person, but the behavior. You know, do you know somebody like that? Day in, day out, week long, week out, year in, year out, not really living. I know I've been there. I know I've been in places and times like that. So they walk, they work, they go about their business. But did you know that we're the only living life form on earth that can become the walking dead? Did you know we're the only life form that can shut that off and go on autopilot and become the living dead by just living in the head and never dropping down into the heart? So I know some of you resonate with what I'm saying here. Let me see a show of hands. You know what I'm talking about? the whole living dead thing. Yeah, I've been there. My God. And I think that when, at least I'll speak for me, I know that when I've been there, it's been a time of incredible confusion and frustration and pain for me in my life, but I didn't really know that that's what was causing it or what was going on until I moved into an aspect that allowed me to awaken, and then I realized it. And then when I realized it, I'm like, oh man, I'm not going to do that again. What do I need to do to not do that again? And so it's like this wave, this dance that we do. And that's the beauty of coming here. That's the beauty of going to classes and getting together with friends and talking about this stuff so that we do stay aware, so that we feel safe enough to be authentic enough to feel our heart and listen to the divine, because that's how the divine speaks to us. So let's do the next slide. It should be by Eckhart, I think. Yep, here we go. So this is what I'm talking about. The most common ego identifications have to do with possessions, the work you do, social status, recognition, knowledge, education, physical appearance, special abilities, relationships, person and family, history, belief systems, and often nationalistic, racial, religious, and other collective identifications. None of these is you. None of these. Yet how many times do we exhaust ourselves to be identified by one or more of those things in that box? And then I just love his last sentence. None of these is you. Wow. I don't know about you, but that gives me a little bit of a sense of relief. A little bit. Anybody else? Anybody feel a little bit of relief about that? Maybe be able to breathe and in that breath, fall back and rest a little bit in that pregnant pause of, oh my God, that is such good news. I don't have to be recognized or identified or work my tail off to make any of this happen or control any of it, because it's not me. Who is me? Who is you? We covered it earlier. Who are you? Who are you? Let's go back to that slide. Number 3. Who are you? At this moment, a lot of energy and a lot of reverb for some reason. You are the universe. You are unlimited. You are so unlimited that you get to make the choice of just how much of what's in that box by Eckhart Tolle you want to identify to or not. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong. There is no right or wrong here, folks. But there is peace, harmony, joy, light, love, consciousness, openness, receptivity, surrender to the divine speaking to us through the heart. There's a lot of that here. Yeah. So the heart helps us to understand who we are, where we are, and how we are. So I'm going to say that again. Who we are, where we are, and how we are. Not that box and quote from Eckhart, but our heart. Who are we? Where are we? And how are we? Follow your heart, and the power of infinite law and love will carry you through your life. That is the ultimate summation of this morning's talk. Ernest Holmes says, Jesus spent much of his time communing with his own soul, for it is through our inner thought that we contact God. It is actually through our inner heart that we contact God. He says, call it consciousness, call it intuition, call it what we will. It is there. No man or woman need go unguided through all of life, for all are divine at the center and all are images of the Most High. So I want to tell you about a study. Have you guys ever heard of Heart Math? The Heart Math Institute. Some of you have, some of you haven't. And a part of the Heart Math Institute, they did some extensive studies. And in these extensive studies, it shows how information flows is received in our psyche, in our conscious awareness, and then how it gets dispersed. And it's very different than what I believe we're brought into this world, taught and trained, that whole regurgitation, A+ on the test, that whole bit. Very different. But what they have discovered in these massive multiple tests, and I'm going to tell you about one of them, is exactly how information is processed. information like truth, like what I'm talking about, spirit speaking to us through the heart. So the participants involved in this study were connected to lots of various sensors. They were connected to sensors on their brain and in their heart space and all over the place. And it was tracking their brain waves and their heart rate and pulse and all that. And then they were exposed to various images. Some were images that would tend to create high arousal, like car crashes and snake striking and things like that. high arousal images. And then some were considered low arousal images, like bunny rabbits and nature scenes. And how this happened is participants were asked to push a button, and then they would see a blank screen for a certain number of seconds. And then the computer would randomly select an image and would put it up for them to see for 3 seconds. And then the screen would go blank for 10 seconds, and then that would repeat. Then they would hit the button, and it would repeat. And they did this over and over and over again and collected lots of data. And so in that lots of data, there was an extremely profound and bizarre result that they discovered. They discovered that every single time the heart knew what the image was going to be way before it came up on the screen and way before the brain processed it and then sent the information to the rest of the body to respond. It's really amazing. So in that study, what came out of that study is the realization that the heart seems to be connected to a type of intuition that is not bound by time and space. Does that sound familiar? Sounds a little familiar to me. Gee, what is that? Source. Universe. We're all connected. So we are all connected to that infinite intelligence, that love and the wisdom of spirit itself, universal love itself. There is no separation. And so they realized that how we as full-on beings, whether you want to call us physical beings, spiritual beings, alive, awake, not alive, whatever, I mean alive meaning aware, still walking, the walking dead, how we process anything and everything is first through the heart. And the heart sends the message to the brain. And the brain then sends it to the gut. Because, sometimes you might think, well, wait a minute, my gut, I always feel it in my gut first. Well, actually, you're feeling it in your gut first, but that's like the third or fourth stop along this train of information that had already been going on in your body. So because of that, through the Heart Math Institute, they have created these exercises. And I want to do one with you right now today before we move any further into the talk. There's this one, it's called a heart focus exercise. And the purpose of the heart focus exercise is to open that pathway more so, open the awareness of that pathway more so of how spirit speaks to us through our heart. Are you guys up with me for doing it? Okay, it's very gentle. I'll be very gentle with you. So the heart focus exercise, I first invite you to be very comfortable in your chair and to close your eyes. And I'm going to ask all of us to shift our attention from our head space and shift your attention into the area of your heart. Like literally place your attention on the space in your body where your heart resides. You can imagine taking an elevator down or an escalator down, but just make sure that your awareness has made that travel journey from your head down to your heart. And focus all of your attention on your heart space. If you feel comfortable, you can even put your hand over your heart. And now we're going to focus on our breathing. Just breathe as you normally would. Yet now imagine every breath is being inhaled through your heart space. And every exhale is being exhaled through your heart space. Breathing in through the heart. Breathing out through the heart. And now breathe a little deeper. Inhale through the heart. and exhale through the heart. Continue to breathe in through the heart and exhale through the heart. You are now beginning to activate a heart-focused feeling. And so now I'm going to invite you, as you breathe in through the heart and out through the heart, I want you to think about a time where you felt really, really good. Think of something maybe that you can really appreciate right now in your life. Or think about someone that you love dearly and all of those qualities and reasons why you love them. Or think about a time or right now where you have an enormous amount of compassion for others. So go ahead and do your heart-focused breathing, breathing in through the heart and out through the heart, and just feel all of those feelings. So now I'm going to gently ask you to breathe in through the heart and exhale through the heart. And as you do that, bring your attention back to this room. And so in this exercise, we have focused on the heart space. And the purpose of that was to open our awareness of where Spirit speaks to us through the heart, knowing that it is beyond time and space. And so what happens when we pay attention to the heart, when we listen to the heart? Can you guys think of times in your life where you've done that? Where you've gotten that intuition, you've gotten that passionate, powerful surge, you've gotten that really important, incredible, juicy, tasty message, and then you acted on it. What happened? Anybody? It felt good. And for me, it generally led to great success. Success meaning fulfillment. Success meaning great joy and exhilaration and fulfillment. Anybody else? What's happened for you?
Brings down barriers and walls.
Brings down barriers and walls. Wow, no separation. Yeah. That greater knowing and feeling of connectivity. Absolutely. You know, when that spark of divine energy takes place, Paulo Coelho, I think I'm saying his name right. Anybody know if I'm saying it right? Because I always want to get people's names right. But Foster read a quote from him earlier this morning. Paulo speaks of this, and he says that whenever that spark of divine energy happens within us, it's so important to listen to it and act on it, and not second guess it, not question it, because, you know, that's where the gold is, folks. That's where the golden eggs are. If you were here for our amazing Easter service, you'll know what I'm talking about on that one. And he says that, you know, when he was young, he was consumed with this desire to be a writer. He knew that that's what he needed to be and wanted to be, and he was consumed by it, and it made him very happy to think about it. Yet all of his elders, because this was in, oh my goodness, I'm going to forget the name of the country now, Brazil. He's in Brazil, and he's from Brazil, and all his elders said, oh, you can't be a writer. You can't make a living being a writer. You know, you got to do this and this and this and this and this and this. And he says that, yes, you know, he was lulled into believing that they had greater wisdom and truth than his heart space. Because he's thinking to himself, well, they're elderly, they're older. I need to respect my elders. They know better. They've been on the planet longer. So I'm just going to push this incredible urge and desire to be a writer away and go do what they say I'm supposed to do. Well, how do you think that worked out? It didn't. It usually never does. And thankfully he realized that it's still an early on age. And then when he realized it, he's like, oh, it's like he gave himself permission to pour all of his heart and soul into what it is that he knew he was passionately, what his passionate purpose was here on this life. And he's an excellent writer, very inspiring. If you haven't read any of his stuff, I welcome you and invite you to go check it out. And he says this: fish can't drown in water, and a bird can't fall from the sky. Each creature must find their God-given element, their God-given purpose. And to do that, we have to listen to the divine, to Spirit speaking to us through the heart. He says we struggle to follow our heart and our direct experience and the advice and instruction of others. He says that it comes through parents and friends and trends of the ages that we're born into. Can some of you relate to that? I can relate to that. Oh, I can relate to that so well. But then there's this, when we reach that awareness, then it's, it's up to us. It goes back to choice. It's up to us. And he says there's no substitute to the aliveness that our heart tunes ourselves to. There is no substitute to the aliveness that our heart tunes ourselves to. There is no substitute. We can try it. Those fake sugar substitutes out there, they're just not the same. They just aren't the same. Authentic, real, quality comes from that. He says he says flower is a great teacher of love. The flower blossoms and it becomes, and the flower doesn't go looking for the bee. The bee is attracted to the flower being what it is. We owe that to ourselves, to be what we are, to authentically, passionately be what we are. And so, knowing all this and that Spirit speaks to us through the heart, sometimes it takes getting our attention to be able to force ourselves to open up and listen to it. The Walking Dead experience, or somewhat close to the Walking Dead, sometimes things have to get our attention to become aware of what's going on. Sometimes we don't want to listen to what the heart's telling us because we think we're up here, still doing that, what's in that box by Eckhart Tolle's quote. So sometimes things can get a little crazy. And I'm going to tell you a story of a time where that happened for a couple who had a 21-year-old daughter named Christina Chesterman. On September 24th, 2013, their 21-year-old daughter, who had just finished nursing school, she was a nurse, she was a Flight for Life nurse, she had a huge passion for living, and she rode her bike everywhere, and she was riding her bike home from the library. She was 4 blocks away from her apartment. She got struck by a drunk driver, hit, and left to die on the side of the road, and she did pass away. And this talk and some of this information, by the way, is coming from a book and a movie that I'm going to share with you. And this story was featured in the movie. It was very good. And I was really moved by it, so moved by it that I wanted to share it with you this morning. The couple, Christina's parents, described her as an extraordinary person. And they said, we don't say that she's an extraordinary person because she's our daughter. We say that because she was so intentional with the way that she lived her life. They said she didn't stumble through life. She was really intentional. By the time she was old enough to donate blood, she insisted on donating blood. She had this drive to show up and be the best she could be at all times. Her dad in the movie said she always did the right thing. And it wasn't because she had to stop and think, oh, what do I want to do here, the right thing or the wrong thing? He said it was just her natural way of being. She always did the right thing. And so she was described as this, just this beautiful, angelic, intentionally living person. Just truly amazing. I mean, after hearing them share that with in the movie, I wanted to meet her. I wanted to get to know her. I wanted to be her friend. And so her mom said 3 weeks after she had passed away, they were cleaning out her apartment, and they found in a drawer a makeup bag that had no makeup in it, but slips of paper. And if you could put the slide on, please. It's my number 9. There's Christina. And in this makeup bag was a slip of paper that her mother quickly realized was a bucket list. for her life. And one of the things that jumped out at her quickly on her bucket list was the line that said she wanted to save a life. Now, she was a nurse and a Flight for Life nurse, and so I have no doubt that she probably did save a few lives at her training and would probably have saved a lot of lives. You'll also notice that on here was to be in 4 places at once, like the Four Corners place. So her parents said, you know what's so amazing about that is she is in 4 places at once right now, and she's saved many lives because she was an organ donor. And so they went on to share all the different people that got the different parts of her body that helped save their life and be in multiple places at once. But the really interesting thing about this story was where her heart went. And they are convinced that she selected where her heart was going to go. It went to a 64-year-old retired nurse who had her own bucket list that was very similar to Christina's. And she had driven Route 66. She had done a lot of things on Christina's bucket list, but she got her heart. And she vowed to complete Christina's bucket list so her heart could fulfill its desire to have all those experiences. And so it was so beautiful. So, because in the film, it filmed, one of them was one of her lists is to walk through a field of poppies. And so it showed her parents and the nurse walking through a field of poppies. She vowed to complete Christina's bucket list. And I was just so touched by that, because her mom got to hear her heart in the nurse. And so she knew she lived on. So see how that to me is a very poignant example of the symbolism of connectivity, that we are all one. And that when we hold these intentions and when Spirit speaks to us through our heart, it's our brain that says how it's supposed to happen and how it's supposed to look and how it's supposed to unfold. But how many of us know that it generally never happens how our brain says it's going to do it? But when it's all said and done, I am most of the time awestruck by how it completes itself, right? Because there's this divine infinite intelligence that's operating through me, that when I am willing to be authentic and honest and surrender to it, my God, the way it has its way with my life is far greater and better than what my brain could come up with. So that's an experience and an example of where I know for a fact that God speaks to us through our hearts, that Spirit speaks to us through our hearts. It's just beautiful. Lat Tzu says, I have just 3 things to teach: simplicity, patience, and compassion. In an age where we run from the depth of feeling and the teachings of the heart, our fear can reframe simplicity as stupidity, patience as laziness, and compassion as sentimentality, and therefore make them not worthwhile to pick up. Simplicity refers to direct living, first-hand experience, the return to touching life directly that restores us to wholeheartedness. Compassion is to be with. It's literally to keep company with. If you don't open your heart, he says that you can be in an energy to fix. Compassion is allowing. It's allowing support and wisdom and that healing balm from within you to move into your awareness. So when I am not directly living and when I am not directly patient, I am not being in compassion. I am not keeping company with my brethren. I want to problem solve your pain, not keep you company with it. Do you see the difference? And I feel that we have been lulled into a societal experience where that is considered the norm and that's considered what we're expected to do. When in fact, we're just supposed to keep company, hold the space
of love and kindness and compassion, so that that wisdom within you that is already there has the space and has that opening to come up and guide and direct you in the perfect ways that Spirit speaks to us through our heart. I think that is so beautiful. So beautiful. And then, and then you stop and think, that's all well and good. That's profound. That's sacred. That's beautiful. How in the world do we do this? How do we do it? How do we do it in the real world? This is what Mark Nepo has to say about this. If you don't open your heart, then existence will crush you. Not because there's something evil in existence, but in the way that water fills a hole. If you don't meet the world with who you are, then everything around you will just fill you. It'll fill you in. If I'm out in this world, I have to admit, I can get hurt. I can be betrayed. My trust cannot be rewarded. And all of that is true, yet the cost of not staying open-hearted, wholehearted, is that I lose access to my aliveness and will walk lockstep in a society of consumerism, getting, fear, worry, and we will not have lived our life. Because we all have a life to live, an amazing, wonderful, awe-inspiring, beautiful, and passionate life to live. And living that life through our heart is the answer. Living our life, being willing to listen to Spirit speaking to us through the heart is the answer. So as Lao-Tzu says, simplicity, patience, and compassion. To be able to live wholeheartedly and out loud, to be able to be authentic and true to the very nature of our being, and not afraid to be that way, because guess what? We're going to be filled anyway. We're going to be filled in by that which is around us. So you are the universe. We are uniquely powerful and beautiful, exceptional, plugged in, tuned in, turned on, sacred, profound, passionate. As we talked about last Sunday, and that macrocosm of responsibility, of realizing and knowing it is our monkey and it is our circus, we have that responsibility for ourselves individually to give ourselves the permission to allow Spirit to speak through our heart and live wholeheartedly, to live out loud, to live and not be the walking dead. So let's go to the slide I showed, 14, from last week. We're going to say this every Sunday this month. It's the solution. Love is the solution. This is it. This is our focus this month. So if everybody is willing to say this with me. Love is the solution. Meditation is the solution. Forgiveness is the solution. Consciousness is the solution. A small act of kindness is the solution. Realizing our power is the solution. Taking deliberate action is the solution. You are the solution. I am the solution. Everybody say that with me. I am the solution. Yes, we are. So let's go to our Rumiism quickly. Here's our Rumiism for the day. Hear from the heart, wordless mysteries. So we're going to go with our affirmation, the last slide. Everybody willing to say this with me? It's our affirmation for the week. I am guided and supported by divine love every day in every way. I trust and live a fulfilled life from my heart. Joy is my norm. Good is my experience. I am grateful and all is well. Yes, it is. So our call to action, what Who can tell me what our call to action would be this week? Live from the heart. And how do we do that? Anybody? Be open. Be real. Be willing to listen. Be willing to be in that space with yourself so that your true being and your true divine intuitive knowledge and intellect can bubble up to the surface so that we can pay attention. And in living through the heart, our call to action then, and in paying attention, I invite you to literally breathe and inhale and exhale from your heart space this week. To keep that heart space open as a doorway so that Spirit may speak to you in ways that you can hear and that you can listen to. And so it is. You are up, Robert.